Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Step one for moving a saltwater reef tank is don't.
No, that advice is stupid. Okay, we're moving my tank across state lines. 4 of them to be exact.
Yep, that's not going anywhere.
The reason I'm doing this is because recently I got a job that required me to move from my home in Los Angeles to a new home in Denver. And those are not the same places. In fact, I've actually lived my entire life in California up until now. Well, technically 2 months ago. Welcome to my crib. Yep, that's all you get. The rest of my place is really messy. And yes, it would probably just be easiest to start anew in Denver. Also, totally could have been a good excuse to get a bigger tank. Had I thought about that. But at this point, I had cute corals. I had some cute fish. I had some cute shrimp. I had some cute blind shrimp. I had regular shrimp. I had soon-to-be baby shrimps. Okay, I had a lot of things. And I'm emotionally attached to them, okay? But there's nothing that I'm more emotionally attached to on this earth than this chalice coral. Please don't tell my girlfriend I said that. That fan worm is just too cute, though. That's why I was going to make sure if I had to move, my most precious fish and coral were going to move too. I had no idea how hard that was going to be. Luckily, I did think about this a little bit beforehand and had a 4-step process to make sure that that fan worm made it safely all the way from Los Angeles to Denver, starting with making a holding tank. Now, in case you don't know what a holding tank is, this is a holding tank. Or technically a quarantine tank. I'm not sure quite what the difference is, but whatever, I'm using these terms interchangeably. I think they're roughly the same. Kind of curious. Okay, look, they're not the same thing, but whatever. Regardless, holding tank. We're making a holding tank. But I also had another problem. Okay, you see, this is sashimi, and this is tamaki. And not pictured here is nigiri. All 3 of these guys hate each other. Right, they'll fight to the death. Yeah, I added those sound effects. I have no idea what a fish fight would sound like, so this was my best guess. So I needed to somehow separate them, and I had a pretty cool idea for how to do that. First, I had to run to Petco or PetSmart or whatever shop this was, and found the perfect tank. And it was on sale too. So yeah, I got the 20-gallon long tank because that one fit a little bit better. And to keep the fish from fighting, I decided to make a barrier screen by using a screen and then some of these like binder edge things and made a screen out of the screen for, just green. Yeah. And now with the screen in the tank and secured, we can go ahead and add in some of that water. And there we have it. Okay, our holding tank is done. We can move to part 2, which is dismantling the fish tank. And so, as I'm sure you guys have seen before, this is my fish tank. Okay, it has some rocks, some coral, some fish, other saltwater creatures, and a handsome man. Okay, 2 handsome men. I read the comment, and you're right. Either way, though, all this stuff is going. Now, emptying the tank was basically like what you would expect. I caught the animals and acclimated them to their temporary home, grabbed the corals that I wanted to take with me, and I watched and waited for this homemade shrimp trap to catch my pistol shrimp. It didn't work at all. I ended up just lifting up the rock and catching it that way. I spent all that time on that trap for nothing. But we got everything out eventually.
We're almost done, man. The tank is devoid of corals. It's kind of sad.
And next was the real fun, draining the water from the tank.
Oh, God. Oh, I think I swallowed some of that. Oh, man, that's so heavy.
And once that was done, break down the stand and get the tanks in their shipping crates. Which, yeah, it's great. We used wooden crates for that. On the other side, meaning Denver, we unpacked the tank to set it on up. And if you remember last time, the plumbing was extremely difficult, so I decided to label everything this time so that way there would be no issues when putting the plumbing together.
That said overflow. And I know it's tough to read.
Oh man, how do I mess up this badly?
Of course, I still managed to mess something up. I plumbed the overflow drain just straight to the floor.
That's not gonna work.
I got them screwed together, though,
That was fixed, though. We could proceed to fill up the tank with water, some rocks, and yes, those are the same rocks that I was using in my old tank, but they look really good, so I don't want to get rid of them. We will have to start the cycle over because they're dead at this point. And then lastly, put in some sand.
I made like a little hole so that way hopefully I can just kind of pour it in.
Yeah, okay, that was a bad joke. I thought it sounded a lot better when I recorded it. But regardless, I put in the sand. Yes, the sand makes everything look really cloudy, so you can't even see in the tank, but that goes away, and sand just looks better in a tank, okay? That's a hill I'm going to die on. With everything now set up, it was time to move on to the scariest part of this whole process, which was shipping the corals. If you've seen many of my other videos, you know I'm no stranger to moving corals and fish, but usually that only involves about a 30-minute drive from the fish store. Maybe even 25 minutes if I'm speeding. Plus, at this point, I'd had a number of corals that have already died while in the holding tank while I was gone in Denver setting everything up, and the rest weren't looking very happy. Yes, you can tell when a coral looks happy. I was actually pretty nervous here because I had no idea if my fan worm was even alive at this point, and every single time I looked in the tank, this is basically what I saw.
Oh yeah, look at all those dead coral.
Since there was no room for errors here, I figured the best course of action for me to take was no action, and instead I let the professionals do it, specifically LAX Aquarium. And the reason for this is because a lot of coral shops will actually ship their merchandise around the states. I figured if they've been doing it successfully for years, maybe they could just do it for me. To which they said yes. Yes, we can. All I had to do was sweet talk them a little bit and pay them a good chunk of money. Now, I don't really have any videos of this moving process, so let me just tell you how this all went down with some pictures. Starting with just pointing out where I'm at right now, which is right here in Denver, Colorado. This is where I have my fish tank already set up and ready to go. However, this is Los Angeles. This is where currently all of my fish and coral are still being kept. Now, because I was living in Denver, I decided to take a plane all the way over to Los Angeles, where all my fish and coral were packed up into a nice little box. I then hopped right back on a plane that same night, flew all the way back to Denver, and meanwhile had all my fish and coral shipped overnight to that same location so I could pick them up in the morning. I did have my girlfriend help with a lot of this. Thankfully, all the fish were looking healthy. The coral, as good as they could be, given that they were very unhappy in that holding tank, but they made it. With my fish now here in Denver, I could go ahead and add them into my tank along with some coral and some new coral that I had just bought. Also, someone remind me to put the camera in front of me next time. I've got so many videos of my butt now. I'm sorry. But with that, we were able to successfully welcome everybody to their new home, which is really the same as their old home, just at a higher altitude. And we're not even done yet. We still have one more task to do, which is to see if my prized fan worm made it all the way out here to Denver. And that's my butt again.